How y'all doing? I don't know if I'm going to remember all that or not, but I'm Justin. This is Kelly. This is my wife, A1 Waste here in Jackson, Tennessee. Been in business since 2008. Kind of did it as a niche in the beginning to circumvent some of the legalities of not being able to operate a roll-off company in our city. So instead of hiring it out, we decided to keep it internal as we were building and doing demolition. So we started off with hook lift roll-off trucks from day one because of the market we was in, and have just grown as the market allowed and opened up for us to grow. Still running cable 30-yard, tandem axle trucks today, and we're currently in the process of having these guys build us a single axle under CDL truck to do more smaller residential projects. Was that?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Chad with Dumpster Today. I founded Dumpster Today in 2018 because I owned a water restoration company and I was tired of poor service providers in our marketplace. That was Orlando, Florida. So much like you guys, I bought a trailer, 5 dumpsters, dropped them on my job sites. That went okay for a little while, and then we discovered that we either had a bunch of assets sitting around or we had no assets. So we decided to open up Dumpster Today in 2018 in Orlando, Florida. 2020, we decided to start franchising. Now we're in 10 states, 20 locations, and we've done everything. We started out with trailers running. From there, we went to the switch and go systems because it was a low cost of entry. And now we are mostly running hook trucks in most of our locations.
Thanks, Chad.
Yep.
Steve with Go Trailer Roll-Offs.
I'm Steve with Go Trailer Roll-Offs. We started about 3 years ago, and we started truck trailer in Arizona. We grew from that into 30s and 40 yards. We've got tandem axles, triple drop axles, and we're in Florida, we're going into Florida. We're in Missouri and Texas now alongside Arizona. We started out with 3 dumpsters. We kind of fell into it. We started out as an originally kind of like a trailer / equipment rental. Bought some dumpsters. They took off. We sold off all the rest of that stuff and just kept going.
Awesome. If y'all want to have a seat up there.
No, this one's just going to die. This one's just going to die.
All right, so getting the most out of your fleet and equipment is the subject for today. First question is, when you were getting started, how did you position yourself for future growth? Or did you have a plan for future growth? And if you did, how did you position yourself?
I would say for us, we didn't. We were more in the now. And so what was cheap and what was easy is what we did, which was a trailer and some cans. And I think a lot of us probably did that or fell into that. Hindsight, I'm now a big believer in just, go big right from the beginning, Nothing motivates you like payments. So payments are a great motivator.
Anybody else on that one?
Well, as I kind of got into a minute ago, we started off doing demolition, so it was kind of a no-brainer for us to go straight into the roll-off with the 30s and 40s. To be able to handle the equipment, and it seemed to be more convenient and easier than hiring a bunch of dump trucks to come run up and down the road when we can do one driver, have 3 dumpsters, and sit there and just, flip them. And then also being able to service our job sites when there wasn't, trucks necessary as we were building or renovating, different projects.
Good. Next one. Okay, next question. When should you transition from trailers to trucks, or from small trucks to larger trucks, or in A1's case, from larger trucks to smaller trucks, right? It's a different way to go.
Okay, then. I'm back on the mic. So because of the nature of how things started and what we was doing, we have more recently found a niche in our area in the last couple of years where a lot of the homeowners have been calling. I guess they've been seeing it advertised from all you guys online and whatnot, that there are now new smaller options available that we really didn't even know about till probably 4 or 5 years ago. Not even sure when they even come into the market, really. Where customers were asking for, 10s, 15s, 20s, which 20s are kind of normal, but we have decided to basically drop down into that more residential market by buying a under CDL, 30,000, 25,000 pound truck to haul these 15s around on a single, rear axle for convenience, and hopefully to do it a little cheaper than using these, 60,000 pound roll-offs to handle a 15-foot long dumpster. So.
Good. Amen.
So we started out on a truck trailer rig. I'm assuming some of this room did. And I would say when we transitioned into the larger trucks is when we decided that our dumpsters were being used differently. So when we were getting a lot of those calls, we're delivering 220s in place of a 40. We're delivering 20s constantly to construction job sites. And then, of course, when we snatch a couple of D-rings off the front of those 15s and 20s, needing to move into that heavier range, that's when we decided to make that transition. So I think truly it matters most on how your dumpster is being used. Who's using the dumpster, who's calling, where's your actual workload at? Is it more in the commercial space or is it more in the residential? If you're going to move into that commercial space, it's highly likely you're going to want the trucks, the big trucks that can lift the heavy weights, rather than just the truck trailer rigs.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, it's demographics and it's customers, response. So some of you may be in a non-CDL truck, and that's great forever, right? We've got locations that are in that because of the size of the communities and the streets and those sorts of things, especially in the northeast part of the country. Those are a good fit, but I think it's mainly when your customers ask for it. And when you get a lot of customer requests, we all want to be a one-stop shop. And in order to do that, you've got to have options.
Great advice. So, show of hands, how many are under CDL only? It's quite a few. How many are CDL only? All right. And then how many do both? It's a pretty good mix out there, pretty good mix. Yeah, we laugh at the office, right? We say we've never met very rarely do you see a trailer guy that wish he didn't start in a truck, right? And very rarely do you see an under CDL guy that wishes he didn't start in CDL. We tell everybody, just chalk up on the board, right? Every time you miss a 30-yard, 40-yard, or you can't sell 220s for a 40 or 215s for a 30, and just keep that tally going. And you find out pretty quick. And again, it depends on the market, absolutely. But in most markets, the 30-yard, again, I say I've been selling cans for 30 years, building them or selling them. And about 60% of my business year over year is a 30-yard container. So if that tells you anything over 30 years, you can take away with that. All right, pros and cons of moving from non-CDL to CDL trucks. So let's see, you're going the opposite direction, which is unique. If y'all made the transition, you made the transition.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's pros and cons to both, right? So for us, our whole franchise system is non-CDL, right? And the pros for us are ease of use, ease of hiring, work-life balance is what it boils down to. If we have a driver and we need to replace him, our hiring pool is wide and vast versus with CDL, it's a little more narrowed. You're going to pay a little more, those sorts of things. Flip side of that, obviously, is we may miss some jobs because somebody wants something we can't haul, So I think it's a balancing act, and it's just really what works best for you in your market and your business model.
All right, Justin or Kelly, you want to talk about it the opposite direction, pros and cons, why you're seeing a need to go to the under CDL market?
Mainly, the demographic. Our town has grown a lot. We're right at 100,000, people in our area, and it's sprung up a lot of new residential, areas where people are either making a move or doing clean outs or small remodel jobs, and they don't really have the area to put a big 30 in it. So that's one of their biggest requests is we don't have enough room to do a 30-yard dumpster. So they're basically, we're missing the sale. Even if we were to come down on our price, they're just like, we don't have the room because of the ordinances. You can't put a dumpster in the road. You know, it's got to be in their driveway, and their driveway is only 20 foot long. Dumpster's 22. What are you going to do? So we realized we was missing a market that really hadn't been tapped other than one other competitor in our area. So we ordered two loads of 15-yard dumpsters, and we've had them rented out pretty much every day that we've owned them.
That's awesome.
So.
Awesome. All right. Last question on this segment is, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A on the kind of the segment. Hook, lifter, cable, and why? That's an easy one, right?
Yeah, ongoing debate. We're cable. We've been cable from day one, and honestly, in 2008, when I was 25 years old, I didn't know there were anything different. That's what her dad bought. That's what we used, and I see the pros to some degree, and I can think of some cons for the other one, but I've heard the exact same speech about the cable having its cons as well. But that's what we started with, and that's what we've just maintained. And yeah, it's what we know, and it's all we know in our area. Nobody runs a hook truck in our area.
Cable.
So I've got probably 30 cable trucks, be it that they're small cable trucks, and we've got probably 8 hook trucks now, and I would trade every one of those cables for a hook. So for me, again, it goes down to ease of use and hiring pool, right? I've had 70-year-old drivers, I've had female drivers. It's really easy for them to operate a hook truck. It's a lot harder for them to climb under a dumpster, hook up a cable, those sorts of things, tear their hands on the cables. It's more in and out of the truck. It's more on your hands and knees. So for longevity, those sorts of things, I would say hook.
Thanks. I'll chime in on that subject for a second as well, because I get asked that question probably nearly daily, most every week, being the equipment side of the business. This slide up here shows these are all cables, but we do just as many hook lifts at Keystone. And when people ask me, Don, cable, hook, where should I go? There's 2 factors that we always want to consider from a consultative approach, as well as who's around you, right? I think, Justin, you kind of mentioned it. What's your area look like? What are other haulers using? Because we've seen great success in partnerships amongst competitors. So a lot of you operate, even in this room, in similar geographic areas, and you might lean on each other. Hey, my truck's broke down. Will you go to this neighborhood, pull this can, dump it? My truck's going to be back up on Thursday. Help me out. And then when you're in the same situation, I'll help you out. Well, if you have similar equipment, that certainly makes that job a little bit easier. The other thing is, what's your long-term plan? What's your succession plan? I know I've talked to a lot of people that say, hey, my goal is to grow, scale this business, get my EBITDA to a certain level of where it's attractive for somebody to come in and buy me out. Well, it's going to be a lot more attractive for that company to come in and do a buyout or acquisition if your equipment that you have mirrors what they already have with the hoist, the truck, and the dumpsters.
I would say, one, I've never seen a truck with that low mileage for that price. I have seen used trucks, but they're usually 300,000, 350,000 miles. A new diesel motor is $45,000 on a big truck. It's $30,000 on a non-CDL truck. So again, I just feel like when you weigh those things into it, an Allison transmission is going to cost you $15,000. Bad motor or engine, and you're not that much further off. It does get a harder decision in my view when you get into the $250,000 trucks. To save 50, 100, 150 on that truck is very appealing. But again, it depends on your size. If it's, if you've got a fleet of 5 trucks, I think you can roll the dice on a used truck. But if you're buying your first truck, would never recommend a used truck, personally.
Another aspect with the used truck category is, for me, it's not really the motor or the transmission that I'm worried about. You know, there's usually small things that go around that can be fixed relatively quickly. You know, they're not cheap, but it's the wear and tear on the chassis itself. All the hydraulic lines, the coolant lines that are constantly vibrating with every mile. Roll-off's hard on a truck. I mean, we all know it's rough. You go in and out of the landfills, catch stuff sticking up, it's just part of the job. So it's like the wear and tear and the nickel and diming of, you know, every day you could go out in a used truck and have a different hydraulic line blow. And that's not something you can carry around with you, you know. That's like a whole nother truck in the toolbox you'd have to carry around. So we're fortunate to have a really nice hydraulic shop in town that can build it on demand, but we started off with used trucks day one. We were buying $10,000, $15,000 old Mack RDs, you know, in 08, and I think we got one for 12 grand. You know, we still got it. It's parked out in the pasture. Thing still runs, but it probably leaks from every orifice it has. But yeah, it's like we started off with that to get our feet wet because, again, we were doing it for ourselves, not to provide a service for anybody else. So that might come into the play as well. With our under CDL truck, we actually picked up a 100,000 mile under CDL, you know, rider, or it was a box truck from some rental company. And we're having them outfit it with new hydraulic, you know, surplus on it. That way we are confident in not having the nickel and dime downtime in the truck, knowing that it was a road chassis that wasn't really abused the whole 100,000 miles of its life like a roll-off would.
To beat a dead horse, I think that these guys nailed it. But when you buy a new truck, you have to understand the difference between the used truck. The used truck is you're buying a project. So there's never going to be a day where you stop spending money to keep that truck on the road. And ultimately, does it wind up being less than the new truck in the long run? So we've got trucks that we've bought in the $50,000 to $70,000 range where we constantly put money into them. And we've got trucks in the $100,000 to $150,000 range, and we put probably just as much money into those trucks as well. So you are buying a project, and ultimately it comes down to your budget. It comes down to how you're going to use the truck, but you really are going to continue to dump money into it. So if it's not hydraulic one day it's going to be a coolant issue or an electrical issue the next day. So understanding trucks before you start buying them is super important. Understanding what motors are good out there versus your different lift kits that are going to be on the back sides of those trucks. And then, of course, who's going to fix it, right? So if it's going to be broke down, not everybody's going to be able to put a wrench on it. So understanding where your accounts are, understanding who exactly has got the expertise to work on that truck, that's kind of critical. And then, of course, if you have a truck that's got a used truck, for instance, 08 to 2015, you got stuff on that truck that's on national back order for 3 years, you're not going to get that kind of stuff. So I think before you buy a truck, a big truck, and you scale up to that model, you really need to understand specifically different types of trucks, truck models, and all the components with it, from the tarp all the way to the hydraulic kit that lifts that dumpster. You need to understand that stuff.
Talk about old systems. That's
That's a nightmare to me.
Okay, thanks. Moving on, we have a new subject matter, choosing the right dumpsters. So how do you decide when it's time to adjust your dumpster inventory?
Okay. Well, really that for us has always been off demand, right? So what type of customer are we really servicing at the end of the day? We started out heavy residential, so it was pretty easy. Anything that we could put in driveway, which is typically a 10 or a 15 yard, that's what we did. When we started doing large scale roofing jobs that are requiring 3 to 4 dumpsters a day, 5 to 6 dumpsters a day, it's hard to charge those guys 20 yards every time they swap out. They want the 30s and the 40s. So whoever your primary customer is, that's kind of how you should scale your specific dumpster size within your fleet. And sometimes it's hard to tell in a market unless you're there for 2, 3, 4 years and you're getting the calls day after day. So it's just kind of how we've done it.
So mine is when we run out of dumpsters. You know, we simply run out, and we need more boxes, so we call Keystone. And Brent, he's not here, but he's my go-to salesman. He's a great guy. But he actually made something happen, and within 2 weeks, he got us a load of boxes, and that's very unheard of. So same thing with our truck, you know. If y'all have any questions or whatever, I mean, they're going to have the answer. They do everything. So they're great people. We just love Keystone. We think the world of them. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kelly. One thing that I would like to add to that is using Docket for an example. Goes back to working on your business versus in your business every day. When you know your business cycles are coming and you're going to get busy, right? I'm from the Midwest. I live in Michigan. I've talked to a lot of people from the Midwest. We get cold, hard winters, and then, you know, we ease into spring, and then it just goes gangbusters this time of the year that we're in right now. So historically, if you know you were light on boxes last year in May, maybe call us in March and have those conversations, because we really do our best to keep our lead times down for manufacturing, but we also get a lot of calls where people say, oh geez, I looked out in my yard and I'm out of boxes, what's your lead time? And you know, sometimes during the peak seasons, we can have lead times at Keystone that are several weeks out, but we actually had a lot of you call us early in the year this year. We had an extremely busy winter and spring leading up to the busy time of the year. So, you know, we're happy to talk through that with you leading up to when you anticipate the busy season is going to hit as well.
I would say too, going to the Docket thing, that we use the reporting in Docket a lot, and Docket will tell you before you run out of cans and you look outside, if you're paying attention to your Docket reports. Some of our KPIs that we constantly run is what's our number one seller? Is it our 12-yard, our 20-yard, our 25-yard? What is it? What's our weight? You know, if you pay attention to those reports, you'll be proactive instead of reactive.
We had a question over here, if you guys have more Q&A time.
This was back when you were talking about trucks. I was just wondering, when do you get rid of your trucks? How long do you keep them?
It's funny, when he was talking, I was going to chime into his ear that I've never sold anything I love other than one car. And so for me, we get rid of our trucks when we can't stand them anymore. And so if any of you guys are looking for used trucks, come talk to me. I definitely have a couple of projects for you.
When the warranty runs out, you get rid of it. 5,000 miles prior. Yeah.
There you go.
I think we got 5 trucks sitting in the weeds right now, so we're like him. We don't sell nothing, you know. I do have used trucks of all prices. I'll sell you one for $5,000 if you want it, but you're going to be turning wrenches on it for a long time. So we try to keep them in motion, though, for 5 years. You know, first 5 years I haven't had to do any major repairs. So.
Got another question over here.
Thanks. This is for Keystone. Do you guys do any truck refurbishing, like for used trucks?
We do. To answer your question, it certainly depends on what it is, but we really have a lot of resources at Keystone. As Craig laid out when he was talking, Keystone is a large umbrella, and we even have a heavy-duty truck service shop on site. So when it comes to, and Craig, maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, but I mean, engine, transmission, differential, I mean, we get into everything. And then on the waste side of the business, obviously we can service your hoist, your tarp system, the hydraulics and the electronics that go with that. So does it make sense to refurbish? That's a conversation. If you're going to buy Justin's $49.95 special that keeps the dust down underneath of the truck, that might be a tough conversation to have. But for example, we have recently taken some really nice trucks in on trade. Keystone, I think, Bram, we put maybe $5,000 into these things, cleaned up some issues with them, and we turn them back into the market. And these are roll-off trucks that we have high confidence in that are going to serve customers for quite some time with minimal downtime. Refurbish, that's just a conversation that we'd have to have one-off, but we do a lot of kind of like what we're doing with A1, Justin and Kelly here. We do a lot of used chassis, brand new hoist, brand new tarp system. So the sky's the limit, and we're happy to work with our clients on all of the above. Good question. Anybody else?
What is the truck to box ratio for you? And then how many turns on each box are you looking for? And again, I know it might be different for everybody, so I'm curious on each of you.
This would be a great question for everybody, actually. It's one of my favorite talking points when I'm learning to know who to lean on. We have 3 garbage trucks and 218 dumpsters. So you can do the math on that. On the garbage side, we're doing 20 to 35 dumpsters a day. We also have a single truck that services 20 dumpsters that turns 8 dumpsters a day, 6 days a week. So it's like, it really depends on your service radius more than anything else. We got a pretty small but condensed town. We operate in a 40 to 50 mile radius with a few 60s, but most everything is within like 10 miles of home base, which is right next to the landfill. So I think it really comes to your area that's going to make that decision. But we'll see what these guys have.
No, I would have to agree. I think that we're probably somewhere between 50 to 55 dumpsters per truck there. And really, our service area is anywhere from, our largest service area is about an 80-mile bubble. So our radius is about 80 miles. We're in southeastern Arizona, so everything is stretched out really far in the same direction, very straight. So, it's not terrible. We don't have a whole lot of elevation climb either. So it really kind of depends on a couple of things for us. Primarily, it's how fast is your driver moving. So some drivers, they're going to do 6 to 8 cans a day. Other drivers, they're a little younger, they move a little faster. They're going to get 8 to 10 cans a day. But that all kind of depends on all the factors out there. What's the traffic like? What's the landfill like that day? How far are they going out in that radius? It all kind of depends. But I think 7 to 10 dumpsters per day per truck or per driver at least, is pretty solid. And then 50 to 55 cans per truck is pretty manageable for us.
I'd say, yeah, we're a little closer to you. So depends on our market. I've got a market in South Carolina. If we stay inside the county, I can do 12, 13 a day, no problem. Our landfill's easy to get in and out of, but if we go into the Greenville County north of us, we drop down to that 7 or 8. And that's kind of our standard, though, is we look to get 8 done a day per truck. And that's in an 8-hour day, and that's pretty standard. And then we do about 35 cans per truck. And then we try to we more specialize in short-term rentals, unlike some of you guys who do long-term rentals. We want to roll that asset as many times in a 30-day period as we can. So we're usually turning, a 20-yard dumpster, we're turning it 5, 6, maybe 7 times in a 30-day process. So it allows us to buy a little bit less assets, turn those assets more often. And then our radius is under 30 miles. We don't go past 30 miles unless it's a specific client in most markets.
I got another question over here.
This one kind of goes in hand with the truck question about longevity. We're in Michigan, so we deal with salt, snow in the winter, and just the question is basically about can longevity. We've been in business we're going on our 4th year. We're starting to run into cans that are starting to rust. So I guess my question is what's the service life of a can? When do you have to refurbish it? Take your marketing off of it and redo that at the same time?
Obviously, geographics are going to play a part in that, and your manufacturer is going to play a big part in it. We started out buying what we considered to be medium-duty cans, and that was really just code for cheap. And those cheap cans just did not last. We've got a yard full of those, too, if anybody's looking for some slightly used cans with a couple of holes in them. We've got a market for that for you as well. But again, I think it goes back to buying the best thing you can afford. So buy the best can that you can, inspect the can. We do maintenance every January. A lot of my locations are in the southern markets, so we don't slow down as much. But in Michigan, unfortunately, you live there. Go Buckeyes. OH. The OH. But in January, if I was running, I run an operation in Columbus, Ohio. In January, we tear down our trucks and we fix as much stuff as we can. And we do, proactive maintenance, whether it needs it or not. That's serpentine belts and just things that we know have an issue that could fail. We want to keep those trucks on the road every single day, 6 to 7 days a week if we can. We run every single Saturday in almost all of our markets. And so I would just say, buying the best can that you can and maintaining it. If your dumpsters are starting to look rough, peel your labels off. You can get an LPV sprayer from Harbor Freight for $150 and spray it in your parking lot with little overspray in 2 hours. We do it all the time and then relabel it. It's going to look good. It's going to last longer.
That's pretty much it. We're fortunate. We don't have a whole lot of that down in Arizona. We've got some of that we deal with up in Missouri, but it's still not as much as what you're dealing with. But we just have a no rust policy on our cans. As soon as we see rust, we're going to break out the grinder. We're going to break out the paint gun and get it done. No rust on the dumpsters. That helps it last a very long time. Don and these guys, they always help out. They can, if you order dumpsters from them, they're going to be able to put you in contact with that paint supplier, and just having 20, 30 gallons, 50 gallons on hand. It may seem like a big investment up front for a lot of folks, but it's definitely worth it. Just no rust on the cans because it gets away from you very quickly.
You can even get it there.
So on the other end of that spectrum, we actually bought probably 40 dumpsters down in Louisiana after Katrina come through. They were flooded from the ocean water. We picked them up for a couple $100 a piece. 30-yard square, heavy-duty dumpsters, $250 plus shipping to get them to Tennessee. 4 to a load, and we got them. We got like 40 of them. Within a year, the sides were rusted out of them. We had to go in and scab and plate up a foot on each side. It lasted 3 years and rusted back out again because all of the salt water was still cased in all of it. Yeah, so, yeah. You might even see my posts on Facebook. I've been selling like 40 or 50 dumpsters, trying to get rid of them. They're gone, by the way. But, yeah, once the rust starts happening, there's no stopping it. You can patch and repair, and they're just going to keep rusting.
Yeah, and to address that specific issue, I think, as a manufacturer, there's different qualities of paint that we can use in the south versus the north. There's also undercoating options that would help you with that. But making sure that whatever manufacturer you use, they do a full prime job, priming underneath, inside, outside, and then exterior coating would be a benefit to go on the bottom also. I would say paint protection would be the #1 key in a salt area. Again, in the south, not so critical. In the north, absolutely. But just work with hopefully your manufacturer will give you options, and then you can weigh it versus cost versus benefit, right? But try some different undercoating, some things. There's some products out there that will definitely increase the life cycle of that container.
Okay, we're going to jump to the next question here. When you are evaluating a supplier's reliability and quality for equipment, again, going back to trucks and dumpsters, how do you all do that? What's your experience in the past?
So with us having, 220-ish dumpsters from, there's probably 10 different brands in our fleet. Here more recently, we've been spoiled with the quality. We have gone through several, along the way and have found some things that we like and some things we don't like. And, not to give a sales pitch, but I haven't yet found a thing that I dislike about their tub-style dumpsters. We predominantly like the tubs because we do some jobs where we will slide one inside another, go to a job site, deliver one, go to the next job site and do a swap there. So it cuts down on the travel time because they're easy to maintain and pop two dumpsters together. You can't do that with squares as easily. We've done it, but not as easily.
I think there's so many manufacturers out there these days. You see them all over Facebook, all over the internet. Really what we look for is the quality of the weld. Quality of the weld, the gauge of steel. That's what it comes down to. We really don't like a dumpster that's going to fold underneath a backhoe bucket or however the construction site's going to use it. We want a tough dumpster. We really like the quality that Keystone's put out. I think that we've probably purchased maybe from half a dozen different manufacturers, and these guys build tough dumpsters. So really what we look for is, the quality of the welds. When you get into the tight areas of the dumpster, you can tell if these guys are cutting corners or not. And then the gauge of steel that they're using, primarily on the floor and on the walls, that's going to tell you whether or not that dumpster is going to hold up under a beating, because they will. Your dumpster's going to go under a beating. Brand new or used, you got to buy something that lasts. So that's what we look for.
Yeah, I would say the two things we look at are welds and paint. And man, there's a major difference between welds and paints with manufacturers. I've probably toured, and I use that term loosely, at least 8 manufacturing companies. And I use that loosely because I visited one in Jacksonville, Florida, and they were painting them in the yard next to the landfill. And we bought maybe 50 or 100 from them, and it looked like they painted them in the grass next to the landfill. And so now for us, that's a big, I don't buy cans from somebody I haven't met and I haven't personally seen their facilities and seen their quality of their work. I just won't do it. I won't spend a couple $100,000 with somebody and then roll the dice on what's going to show up. So if this is your business and you're serious about it, you can take a weekend. You can go meet the guys at Keystone. You can see the quality of their work. You can bang on their cans. You can ask them to lift one up, look underneath it, see if they're cutting corners when they're spraying the underneath side and things of that sort. Those are things that are all going to cut down on your longevity, which is ultimately going to cut into your bottom line.
Yeah, great advice. And I would say get to know your supplier, right? There's a lot of suppliers out there that require 50% deposits. Cans may or may not show up. Again, there's a lot of horror stories out there, right? So get to know your supplier, go by and see them. Is it a real facility? Are they really manufacturing containers? I think it's really important in this day and age. So lack of time, we're going to ask one more question and then open it up for Q&A for the rest of the time. Is that okay? Okay. Biggest challenge you faced and how'd you overcome it? Loaded?
Man, I mean, everybody's got challenges, right? In the beginning, your biggest challenge is your marketing, right? Because if you buy a truck and you buy 20 cans, now you got to find somebody that wants to rent those cans from you. Once you get your marketing built up and you get reoccurring business, then your biggest challenge may change. It may be financing, it may be revenue, cash flow. I think that's very tough to answer. That's could be different for everybody.
I was trying to bring it to a personal level. Your biggest challenge.
My biggest challenge is living with Evelyn back there. She makes me work way harder than I want to most days. Like this morning, she was up at 5 o'clock on docket, booking jobs and everything else. And so now I've been up since 5 o'clock because of that.
That's good.
So.
What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I think it's a loaded question.
It is.
It's tough. There's a million challenges and they never stop. I'll just pick one. I think the biggest challenge is when you're ready to scale to that next level is understanding that you'll never scale until you get out of the truck. So if you're in the truck, you're dispatching, if you're doing something at an operator level that requires an hourly, pay scale, you're never going to go to that next level. You're not going to be able to see really your TAM, your total addressable market, until you step back from it and be able to kind of manage from a distance. So I would say if you're looking to go from wherever you're at now, whether that's $250,000 a year, $1 million a year, $10 million a year, and go to that next level, you have to get out of wherever you're at. So you have to hire good people, which good help is always hard to come by, but you have to step back from it. You have to step back from the little hireable positions in your company. That's probably
It's a
the
great
biggest
point.
challenge.
Great point.
Okay. So another thing is, I didn't know this in the beginning. I keep looking at, like revenue that a company generates. You can't judge how big you are based on the revenue that's coming through your hands, because a lot of it's turning around and going out, and then with all the tax implications and the abilities to, move the money around, just don't get caught up on the number somebody says. It's really about, it's more personal. It's whatever makes you happy in your line of business. Don't judge yourself based upon somebody else's numbers.
How much time do we have for Q&A? 2 minutes, Q&A. That hour goes fast.
We apologize. We had about probably close to 20 questions that we skipped over, but we will be available for different questions after. Just look us up.
This is a question for A1. You mentioned kind of about nesting some of your cans, bringing them out to job sites. Tell me a little bit more about that, and how do you guys prevent your drivers from damaging that property when they are unnesting the cans at that job site? Because it's a sticky situation, obviously.
It takes experience. Best place to do it is in the gravel, because the box won't take off downhill. I don't know if y'all have seen the video on YouTube, but somebody's dumpster was running down the road, and that was horrible for everybody involved. So you really got to know your terrain. The driver's got to be experienced to know how to operate the truck. Of course, we're running cable, so I feel there's a little less control with a cable truck versus a hook truck. Hook truck's probably better at unloading a can out of another can. But gravel or dirt is where you want to do it. If the job site's big enough, that's where you want to do it. If it's not, find a place that is, and then run it, and then come back and grab that one and continue on. So many times we'll have to drop a box a mile or two up the road at one little gravel turnaround yard, that's public, and drop the box and then go do what we got to do, come back and grab that one and take off.